Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith, and today I am talking about Kolchak, Nosferatu, or, depending on what page of the book you read, Kolchak, the Night Stalker, Nosferatu. And this is by, I'm going to have to read this. This says, featuring stories by Nancy Holder and Alan Phillipson, John Everson, Christopher Sequeira, and Jerry Huntman, conceived and edited by Christopher Sequeira. So this is, and this is from Moonstone Books. This is essentially a mosaic novel, mosaic story, featuring Carl Kolchak and Nosferatu. If there's anybody that doesn't know, Kolchak, the Night Stalker, started off as books, but then was made into a TV movie called The Night Stalker, where intrepid reporter Carl Kolchak is in Las Vegas looking for a killer that turns out to be a vampire. This was followed by the made-for-TV movie The Night Strangler, where intrepid reporter Carl Kolchak was in, I believe, Seattle, looking for a serial killer that turned out to be something supernatural. And then it was made into a short-lived, unfortunately, TV series where every week intrepid reporter Carl Kolchak would be looking into some sort of mystery, some sort of story that always ended up having a supernatural angle. And by the end of every episode, any evidence that he had would be destroyed, and he could never prove that vampires, werewolves, mummies, whatever, were real. And it starred Darren McGavin as Carl Kolchak. So this book is a bit of a sequel to the original movie, The Night Stalker, a companion to the TV show. It is moved forward in time. I would say it takes place in the modern day, but Kolchak, I would say, is the age that he is in the movies and the TV show in the 70s. So they basically have taken him and his editor, Tony Vincenzo, and popped them into the modern day. They didn't age them. Kolchak isn't 50 years older than he was. I'm going to say, especially based on the fact that they still make him look just like that. It's basically the characters popped into the modern day. And so the events of the movies and everything have moved up a few decades. But what we have, there's a little introduction, or a foreword, by Mark Dawidziak. Talks about Kolchak and such and such. But then we start with what they call a prelude by John Everson. And this is Kolchak on a case. He's looking into these international jewel thieves, and he gets in trouble. He's in Hollywood. He's working in Hollywood now. He and Vincenzo both have jumped from paper to paper, always losing their jobs, moving on. They've ended up in Hollywood. And so Kolchak gets in trouble, as he does. He is told to go to Vancouver to cover a bridal show, but it's to get him out of town while Vincenzo deals with City Hall and all this stuff. But Kolchak finds a link to these jewel thieves, but of course it's going to lead to something supernatural. It's going to be vampires, and it's going to tie in very specifically to the movie The Night Stalker. Then we have, so that was the prelude. All roads lead back to the bite by John Everson. Then we have a prologue, I've Got Your Back, by Jerry Huntman. And this is actually told by another character, sort of an informant for Kolchak. And this guy has gone to a bar and is telling his story to just some other guy at the bar. And it's, again, another vampire-related story that's going to tie in to everything. So then we have the main story, the biggest chunk of the book, the Nosferatu Murders by Christopher Sequeira, where we have Kolchak investigating people being drained of blood, but very strange wounds. And Kolchak teams up with this female detective at an LA police precinct, and they're investigating. That's pretty much all I'm going to tell you about that. So that's the biggest chunk, and then that is followed by The Brides of Nosferatu by Nancy Holder and Alan Phillipson, which is an epilogue, essentially, a little epilogue story that follows immediately after the Nosferatu murders, and stuff goes down. More murders, Kolchak gets involved, it all ties together. But then there actually is something called epilogue, an important stop, which is just a couple of pages to tie some things together. And that's by the epilogue, an important stop is by Jerry Huntman and Christopher Sequeira. So, I think I covered everything. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I might be biased. I was a huge fan of the made-for-TV movies and the TV show. Even as a little rugrat back in the 70s, I loved horror. And Kolchak the Night Stalker was a TV show that scared the hell out of me. Sometimes, especially if you go back and watch it now. Or if you watch it now. You can't go back and watch it now. If you went back, you'd be watching it then. If you watch it now, I think the stories hold up, but it very much feels like 70s TV. But as a kid, back then, it scared the hell out of me. I like how the stories tie into the events of the movie, the original movie, and one of the episodes of the TV show is referenced here. I like Carl Kolchak feels like Kolchak, and Vincenzo feels like Vincenzo. The story feels like it could be an episode of the TV show. The authors were able to, I think, maintain that whole Carl Kolchak feeling. Now, Moonstone, at this point, should be able to do that. They have a ton of Kolchak comic books, and they've printed a bunch of Kolchak novels, short story collections. They've reprinted the original, the Kolchak papers by Jeff Rice, which I've ordered. I've never actually had a copy. So I went to Moonstone and ordered a copy. So yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5. It feels authentic to me, but I will say, if you've never watched the show, if you're not familiar with it in any way, I think you can come in and read this, and I don't think you're going to have any problems with it. There's nothing that you would need to have seen the movies or the TV show. I think it's pretty self-contained. You get to know who Carl Kolchak is and his relationship with his editor, Tony Vincenzo. And I really, really like what they do with the central mystery and antagonist. And, well, with Nosferatu. I mean, it's on the cover. I'm not hiding anything. I like what they do and how they do it. It's pretty cool, I think. And I think the stories, for the most part, fit well together. I'd say they all fit pretty well together. I don't think there's any, maybe a tiny hiccup here or there where it felt like, because of what happened in this story, Carl maybe should have known something that he didn't seem to. Uh, Maybe. So, is there anything else for me to really say about this book? If you're a fan of Carl Kolchak and the Night Stalker series and all of that, I would definitely recommend this. If not, I'd still recommend it for horror fans, for fans of Nosferatu. I really like what they do with the character. And just a little sort of side note, there was a remake or reboot, whatever you want to call it, of Kolchak the Night Stalker in the late 90s, early aughts. Not really sure, because I never watched it. I don't believe it even lasted a full season. Could be wrong about that, because, again, I never watched it. It could have been great, could have been horrible, don't know. And this character and this series was at least partially the inspiration for shows like The X-Files, Supernatural. They did have, on The X-Files, Darren McGavin appeared as the mentor of Fox Mulder. Little nod to Darren McGavin. And if I remember correctly, the original concept for Supernatural was that the two main characters were going to be reporters, traveling the country, investigating weird stories. Of course, things go through stages. Supernatural became something different. But initially, I believe, they were supposed to be reporters because the creator, I want to say it was Eric Kripke, was a fan of Kolchak the Night Stalker. So, there you go. 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed this. I have some of the comics. I want more of the books. A lot of good authors wrote some Night Stalker stories. Check it out. There you go. My question, I think, is pretty obvious. Have you ever seen Kolchak the Night Stalker? Or the movie The Night Stalker, the movie The Night Strangler, the TV series Kolchak the Night Stalker, the remake of Kolchak the Night Stalker? Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Very simple question. Obviously, I saw all of the original stuff. I loved all of the original stuff. It terrified me when I was a child. And I'm still a fan of the new stuff that's coming out. What about you? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronan5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is EricSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. That's all I have for you. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I've been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.